Yo, what's up guys? New video talking about all of the Assassin's Creed units and seeing which one is good, which one is bad. Spoiler alert, all of them are pretty bad. And I got together a bunch of clips from other people using them, including the LD5, so I can actually see the LD5s being used. I'm gonna check win rates, I'm gonna check multipliers. So this video is going to be pretty in-depth. This is going to be a lot of editing for me. But I don't want to make it too long, so I'm just gonna edit through like the whole thing and pick up the units that way. Also, I would like to mention, I was super hyped, still am super hyped about how these units look. They look amazing, skills look amazing, but then when I started reading into the skill kits, I was like, this A doesn't really match with B of what it does in the skill kit. Like, why does this do something like that and that doesn't help that at all? Then I was like, okay, the skill kits for most of them are kind of wonky, but if the multipliers are good, we're looking something good. And then I checked the multipliers, I'm like, yeah, those are bad. So yeah, let's look in. Or maybe there are some few pearls in there that are actually good. Also, as a disclaimer, keep in mind that these units are bound to be buffed at some point. It might be like 2 balance patches down the line, it might be faster, I don't know, probably 2 balance patches down the line, so we're talking like 4, 5, 6 months in. Some of these could be guessing like, okay, this unit could be good, that unit could be good, but it's very hard to say, like who gets the hollyberry water treatment, or who gets the cigar treatment, the carnal treatment, because these units were all pretty bad at the start. But then again, who gets the cashmere treatment of getting 6 buffs and still being shit? You don't know about that. So hopefully for you, you got the water hollyberry style of unit, you got the carnal unit, you got the good units that are actually going to be buffed. You got the Gurkha kind of unit, but then you can only enjoy it for 1 season, but at least you got to enjoy it. Whereas some other units are just not enjoyable whatsoever. Some of the LDs are pretty bad, so they are bound to be buffed at some point. But will they be usable, or will they be getting a buff and then another buff and then a Van Cleef buff and then still kind of shit? Who knows? So first of all, going to start with the Cassandra family. Cassandra family looks pretty interesting, except for the fact that the leader skills add a complete random number. Someone might argue that the leader skills are because they are like a 4.5 star, because 2 of them are net 4s, 3 of them are net 5s. Still, it doesn't make any sense. Like even 21, like even Widget would say that this doesn't make any sense. And Widget is already on a speed lead, it doesn't make any sense. Let's look at the actual skills. So S1 is all the same for them. This S2, it does damage, and then if it kills, it reduces the cooldown. This skill is actually straight up bad. Let me show you why. So this is Cassandra, and these are the multipliers. You can actually see the multiplier of the thing that's important. That's a 2.8. 2.8 is terribly low. Like, okay, the base attack is pretty high of this unit, but let's compare it to some of the other units. We have a tectonic shift of Kali, which is 3.3. That's already 0.5 more. Then we have the S3 of a Covenant, that's 4. This unit doesn't do jack shit damage. Like, literally, I've seen some people use it with pretty good sets. This thing does near to no damage. This thing definitely deserves an 8% damage up. Probably a little bit more than that. So yeah, this unit, would I classify it as good? No, it has potential. The S3 has potential. But what I've often seen, like I've seen some RTA clips with this. The moment that this is used, they go into the invisibility, they get stunned or whatnot. It kind of needs an immunity, or they get debuffed and then it just dies. So it doesn't do enough. This definitely needs immunity or an instant turn, or I don't know what. Let's see the win rate in RTA at the moment. So the numbers are very low because it's not used that much. So these numbers are kind of fluctuating. Keep that in mind, but we can see -50, 41, which is pretty low. This actually has somewhat of a pick rate, and it has a 20 in here. So win rate says don't use it in RTA. So next on the list, the Water Cassandra. She's a 4-star. S1 is what it is. S2, armor break at an 80% chance. It just sucks. Like, I really don't know why you want to do that. But the S3 is, I guess, the interesting one, whereas a water unit does extra damage on wind. Question for me, however, is this perfect AI? Because then I can think of something. So mine is max skilled, it doesn't have any stats, doesn't really matter. I'm fighting something relatively simple anyways. Gonna press it on auto, and I want to see S3s only if there's something to perfect AI. Not. So that skill's straight up bad as well. Because if this was perfect AI, at least it would be able to do something in, let's say, SF10 or whatnot. But as you can see already, it is not perfect AI. So if there's a wind thing you can hit with the fire strike, it will not do that. An interesting thing is that the S2 doesn't hit the units, but it's a 20% freaking non-activation rate. S3 does seem to do a decent amount of damage, which is not that bad. But if that skill was on a perfect AI, you had a perfect AI branding on the right element, which is a pretty good skill, but apparently no perfect AI for hitting the right element on this thing, for example. Or just when your only choice is to actually, like, it would make so much sense to have this perfect AI for a lot of reasons. Like, fill it in. Skill's pretty cool though, but straight up pretty much trash for this, I guess. You can say like, okay, let's use it in Siege or whatnot, but the issue is you're using a wrong element against the wrong element. So that means that that unit is going to hit your unit, and this unit is relatively squishy. It's a support unit, and you want to build it on damage. So this unit, I can't really see this being used out much as well. Then we go on to the Wind one. Wind one has the same S2 as the Fire one, so same issue, low damage scaling, so it doesn't really do too much. And then we have the S3 where it resets the attack bar and increases glancing. Issue is, we have Changpeng resets attack bar, we have Ganymede resets attack bar, we have Savannah resets attack bar. Like, why does every Wind unit reset attack bar? Like, if this was, for example, a Fire unit, then it would make sense because you don't have that many Fire units pushing back, like fully. You know, for Water, you have some, but not that many. Cigar, also full pushback. So you already have like fucking 3, 5, 10, 15 pushback units on Wind. Why do we need another one? Let's look at the damage multipliers. So our damage multiplier is actually 5.2. That is not too bad. That actually does a decent amount of damage. Her base attack is okay-ish. Let's see how she does in RTA at the moment. Probably not being used as much, but we can always check like the first few numbers on it. Okay, that is pretty bad in Conqueror. That is absolutely terrible in Guardian. And that is not used in G3. Yeah, this unit, not too great. Definitely needs something more than just doing that. I really don't know. So yeah, the S2, lackluster. The S1, also not great for the whole family, I guess. And then this thing is just, yeah, it's not good enough. It doesn't do enough. Like, just to push back and glancing, like, why glancing? Like, all of these kits seem so freaking weird, inconsistent, no coherence with, like, whatever they do with the rest of the kit or with the rest of the unit or something like that. I really don't know why. Why glancing? Like, there could be so many options, but why glancing? And we go on to the light one. Well, I guess she's the most inconsistent out of all of them because she has this skill that's inconsistent, and then this skill is a 50% chance to stun, but for 2 turns. I'd rather have a 100% stun for 1 turn than a 50% stun for 2 turns. Like, hands down, any day of the week. Let's check that multiplier on the S3. The multiplier on that S3 is actually higher than the multiplier on this S3. Also, again, doesn't make any sense. Why would this be a higher damage skill than that skill? Well, I guess to overcome that, she has like quite some high attack, and this one has pretty terrible attack. But still, the base HP is pretty terrible for this unit because it's an F4. So, once again, I can't really see this being used all too much. It looks pretty wonky, pretty weird. We can quickly look in RTA. I don't think this is somewhat more of an RTA unit, so I guess this will be used in RTA. Let's also check the Water unit in a second. So let's see how that fares. Okay, 34, 0, and not used. Not surprised whatsoever. Once again, not a great unit. Checking out the Water one not used, Conqueror, 90% win rate. Probably you don't want to use this either. Going on to the Dark one I would say has somewhat more potential because you got the Speed Lead. Speed Lead already makes something right, even though this skill is once again the low multiplier skill. But this is like grants Endure and attack power on all allies. So Endure and attack power is pretty interesting because you never had that combination on any unit. You don't have any spreader of Endure that much on any unit, I guess. But then again, is Endure that much of a good skill? It has the somewhat more attack than the Fire one, so this S2 will do slightly more damage. It does have a self-buffing attack, which is pretty much like we're getting on Kali level. Like, is this not just simply Kali without a speed buff and invisibility on itself? Because I'm pretty sure this unit on the same set as a Kali, on the same set, Kali will do more damage, even with lower base attack. So let's see how that works out in RTA. In Conqueror, she has 42% win rate. In Guardian, she actually has 53. Okay, so I can see this unit being more used than the other two because she has an S3 that also sets up for the team. It's not a complete selfish unit. Whereas the other two are complete selfish units with not great enough kits. Or this one I could see being used, but then again, Wasting your whole turn to get attack buff and just endure on an S3 LD5 sounds weak as fuck, like, not gonna lie. My final verdict about these units, I would rate her a 5 out of 10. I would give this one a 2 out of 10. If this one had perfect AI on the S3, I would probably give it like a 6 to 7 out of 10. Yeah, 7 to 8 actually, because it could be specific for SF10, but it doesn't, so it's shit. This one probably 4 out of 10, this one a 1 out of 10, and this one I would say 6 out of 10. That's my rating for the Cassandra family. Continuing on with the Bayek family. Bayek family looks pretty much the weirdest of all. It was actually interesting. Previously, this was mentioned as damage scaling from speed. It was a typo. It's actually damage scaling from HP, apparently. But that doesn't seem too great either. So we have the S1 that is a recovery block, which is a pretty nice skill. S2 that can strip and silence, which I guess is pretty nice, but we already have, for example, an Iris that does that better, but okay. And then in this case, we have an S3 that has some recovery, multi-hits, and that kind of stuff. So it could actually add up to some damage. Let's see multipliers. So it's 0, 12 times 5, and it cleanses and heals. Let's see what, for example, Carnal does on the S3. Carnal does a 0, 1, so that's 0, 2 lower, times 3, but AoE. That unit hits 5 times. So the amount of times that it hits, plus a higher multiplier, would say that he is decent for the amount of damage that he does. So it has a higher multiplier, so it would seem decent for the amount of damage that it does. Cooltime is also, it's just 3 turn on cooltime, which is not that bad. But I would feel like he needs something slightly more. But I could see this unit being used. Let's check it out in RTA how he looks. So we got a 25% win rate in there, 31 in there, and not being used in there. So yeah, that doesn't look all too great. Again, it's a selfish unit, whereas a Carnal, for example, is S3 that does less damage. It is AoE, it's an AoE slow, it's an AoE stun potential. The S2 gives him cycling, and in this case, the S2 is a silence and a strip, which is, I guess, kind of nice, but yeah. If you would trade this unit for Carnal, if you will put them like one versus the other, if you can draft one of the two, Carnal is a lot better. Could this be used for Guild War offense? Maybe. I'm not really sure what you're trying to kill with it, but I guess so, maybe. We have the water one. This is damage scaling from HP, not from speed. And then this is also from HP. So we have a bunch of skills that are scaling from HP. So it actually is somewhat more of a consistent kit than we first thought. But still defense lead. That doesn't really make any much sense. Let's check out the multipliers. Wait, you can't really read the multipliers as of now, so let me add it like that. So the damage is 0, 55 attack, and then 0, 0, 5 HP. That looks not that great, I don't know. But, oh wait, this is not from your HP, this is from enemy HP. So it is actually more inconsistent than we thought. So we have attack scaling, HP scaling, attack scaling, where it has barely any attack. So this unit is not going to do any damage. I guess it's somewhat of a siege offense pushback-ish unit with pushback over there, reset attack bar over there. But then again, versus what? Like net 4 siege? Would you use this against a Kinky? Would you use this against a, I don't know, Asher, Monty, those kind of units? I don't really know. I think there's better options out there. I don't think I have to check this unit for RTA because I'm pretty sure it's just straight up bad. And apparently it's never being used because it's not even recorded. So let's go on to the next. The wind one is, I guess, somewhat interesting to the extent that this thing can solo GB12. I've seen this thing being soloing GB12 simply because he puts dots and he does more damage when doing dots. It is not a crazy amount. He has some stain on that kind of stuff. You could say I want to use this unit as my guild battle offense tank. So the enemy has multiple fire units and therefore you're bringing this unit as a tank. Would he do a great job at that? No, I don't really think so. Because most of the fire units that are put on defense would be a Carcano, maybe a Tessarion, not that much, but mainly Carcanos, I guess. Sometimes a Perna. Is this a decent Perna tank? I guess so, as long as he doesn't get armor broken, which already means that he's not that great of a Carcano tank. Because he gets armor broken, I think he gets shot to pieces because of this defense being low as shit. I can't really see this unit being all too great in Siege offense as well. Also hasn't been used in RTA at any time yet, so no RTA usage. I guess it's just guild offense. But I would then again say, like, if you have a very early game account and you don't have a Giants team, which is relatively rare, I would say, because you just build Melias and it's already better. Could you put this unit next to Melias and then it kind of works to solo stuff to make it safe? I guess so, but literally you can have a safe GB12 team in 10 days on pretty much any account. So I don't really see the usage of a unit being only good at that. We go on to the light one, and for the light one, I actually want to show you a clip that I saw on Twitter. This one once again has scaling from max HP, and it has scaling from max HP. So in this case, at least both of them do scaling of max HP. So let's see how that looks like. These clips are actually from Samana. I guess that's how you say it. So at first, it was written as a speed scaling. So he actually tried the speed scaling damage. And on speed scaling damage, he did the following damage. So attack buff, speed buff, good set. It's fucking hilarious, man. But then they figured out, like, okay, it is not the case, it's HP scaling. The man was kind enough to make a video on that as well. So this is a very good set. Like, if you put this on a Zaraf is going to one-shot the waves, like, any time of the week. So let's see how much damage. 31k HP and 240 crit damage. That is a lot of stats. Let's see how much damage it does. This better be good. We also have an S3, and S3 is also scaling from your max HP. So maybe this is the heavy damage skill, right? Maybe this is the one. I guess on an armor break. But then again, this is a 0 speed and crazy, like, freaking high damage set. And it does, like, near to no damage. On to the next unit, I guess. The Dark Bayek. Dark Bayek actually has the same shitty S1 and S2. Well, this one isn't really shitty. It's okay-ish. But the thing is, this thing hits a unit at random. This thing can hit a unit that's immunity. This thing can hit a unit that's... I don't know, man. You could literally proc someone's passive on this. Or something happens that is wrong on this. So if you could choose who you would stun, or if it's at the start of your turn, you would stun something and then you can follow up whatever you want to do, it would be at least okay-ish. But now it's just the moment you attack, this thing attacks at random. I don't know, man. This is just also straight up bad. Let's look these two up in RTA and let's see what the win rate is. 32%, 0%, and not used. Okay, let's check about the dark one. Dark one should be the more RTA-ish unit, I guess. Okay, 47, that is not too bad. It is not high. 11%, that is pretty interesting. And 0%. But once again, numbers are very low. But 47% is one of the better numbers we have seen so far. But yeah, is it good? No. So my verdict on these units, I would give this one a 5 out of 10 because I see somewhat usability in Siege offense. I give this one, I would say a 3 out of 10. I really don't know, like, what is it supposed to do with an inconsistent kit. And this skill is the same skill as we saw with this one, doing absolutely no damage. So I guess it's just a CC-ish unit. I don't know. So yeah, 3 out of 10. This unit, I would give it a 5 out of 10 because I can see... No, 6 out of... I can see it solo. Some things I can see it being used in Siege offense here and there if you counted the correct element with it, I guess. This thing, I guess, we give a 2 out of 10. No, wait, 1 out of 10 because it's just terrible damage. Absolutely rookery damage. And this thing, I would give a 3 out of 10 as well because for an LD5, this is absolutely a rookery kit. So this family is pretty bad. Moving on to the next family. As someone mentioned earlier in the comments, it's Ezio instead of Ezio. That could totally be right, so I guess I call it Ezio. I could be wrong, and that let me know in the comments if I'm right or wrong. So we have the skill that has the decreased defense, which I guess is pretty cool, and this skill is, I guess, pretty interesting as well. I don't have this unit. I haven't seen anyone test it in, for example, SF10. I thought this unit could be somewhat interesting in SF10. We have Arena Leader skills, so I guess it's more RTA related. Let's look at multipliers. So the multiplier for this is a 2 times 3.2, which is not that much. And the S1 is a 3.8. That's normal for an S1, but 3.2s is not that much. It does have potential to ignore defense at every hit, which I guess is decent. I don't really know. Let's see at the win rates. Let's see if the win rates give me something. We got a 37% in Conqueror. That's not that high. 42 in G1 and probably not used in here. So this number doesn't really say all too, doesn't look that great. Let's call it that way. I would say that this unit could be nice in SF10 if he has potential to kill things that way, but then again, I don't really think it is that great of a unit as well. We go on to the next one. This is the one that has the distraction skill, so the threat state, and then the S3 for his strip. And I thought pretty long about this skill and what kind of usage can you have on this skill. But all of it seems actually pretty terrible in all honesty. Like the best thing I could come up with is this unit, a Nephthys, a Leia, and a Asher moving in front. But then we're talking Nephthys and Leia. That's the only case that I could see this unit being like, okay, I guess it is best in slot right now. Because it gives attack buff to just one unit. Okay, but it also gives attack bar to just one unit. So you need your damage dealer to actually be fast. Or you need your stripper or your armor breaker. No, you don't need a strip. You need your armor breaker. You need your armor breaker to move, to be slow and therefore push back or something. And also the base speed. Like if this thing was a 116 base speed, we could be talking about some nice things. But you kind of have to make an Asher move in front. Then you need a Nephthys that is both the speed lead and an armor breaker. You could say remove the Nephthys, you put in a lure, but you add in another resistance check to push back rather than... So you cannot really scale off that of saying like, okay, I'm gonna assume that it armor breaks and pushes back because your Leia's just gonna get fucked based on that. So I don't know, like I feel like any other stripper could kind of do similar or better. Like I couldn't really think. Let me know in the comments if you actually have like the perfect mindset idea. But the only thing that I could think where he's best in slot is a Nephthys, Ezio, Leia, and Asher. That is, I guess, the only one I could think of that he's best in slot. But even then I could think of way better things than this combination of those four. But I guess that's the only one where I would say, okay, arguably he's best in slot. But then again, the attack bar boost doesn't really do anything. It's just the attack buff and the strip. So technically, a Joe Gun already does the same thing. I don't know, man. This unit seems pretty bad. Was there anyone daring enough to use him in RTA already? Let's see. We have it was actually one of the more used units in RTA compared to the other ones. But a 33% win rate and a 27% win rate and a 33% win rate says that the unit is probably not that great. Then we have the Wind one. Wind has the same S2 as the Fire one, and the S3 is an AoE hit that decreases call time on all allies. I think I can make this use in PvE. I haven't tested it because you need it max skilled, because without max skills you're going to be on a 5-turn cooldown, which is too long. You need a 4-turn cooldown. Then I could set it next to a Julie and Julie this, and then I could use a unit in wave 2 and wave 4 that has a 4-turn cooldown, becoming a 3-turn cooldown technically, or even longer than that. So that is the only usage that I could think for this unit. It is a 4-star. I can't really see this being used in anything else than that. And let's have a quick look at the RTA thing. But the moment I have this one max skilled, I think I can make some teams with it, so stay tuned for that one. I could throw Devilmons in it, but I don't really think it is worth it. The damage is a 4.4, so it is not that much for an AoE skill on the S3. Like, we've seen, like, way higher multipliers. Like, for example, the Cassandra S3 did, like, 5.2 or something, if I'm not mistaken. So this is not that much of a high damage hit. But I guess, like, the cooltime reduction has some usage. But I would say, like, if you're farming secret dungeons, this could maybe be a thing. I don't know. If we check him out in RTA, we have a 29% win rate, not being used, and not being used. That doesn't look that great. Then we have the light one, which is an LD5. And the people that have him, like, often told me, it's like, I pulled this unit, I'm like, I am not too sure about him. And then I look at the stats and I'm like, I agree with you. So yeah, distraction skill, I'm not really sure if it's that great of a skill in general, just to put threat state on something else and waste your whole turn for it. It kind of feels like you should get an instant turn after doing this, at least, bare minimum. So if you get an instant turn after doing this, you could like S2 into an S3, for example. And then I could see the usage of it. But just, yeah, this thing, I don't know. Let's look at multiplier. So the multiplier of this one is actually a 7.8, which is quite a bit higher than the other ones. It does ignore all passives, but it ignores all passives on just one hit and one target. Is then even a 7.8 enough to kill anything? And it does get an extra turn. I want to see how that works in a second. I'm going to look up a match and just see how that works. If it assassinates something, it gets an extra turn. Like, what's the point? Like, to do an S1? Or to do threat state? Like, I don't see the point of getting extra attack bar. Like, I like the idea that it kills without the passives. But then what? Like, you get attack bar, and then what? Like, there's no point to that, right? So, let's see the win rates of this unit. We got a 43 in Conqueror, we got a 44 in Guardian, and we got not used in this one. So, it's somewhat higher than the others. Still pretty bad. Okay, we have the unit here being used. I'm not really sure if it's going to be able to... Okay, never fucking mind. Not the best one. Let me use the power of editing to get a clap bar. He's somewhat usable. Okay, I could see him being used here because you ignore all passives. And then you could one-shot a Marsha, technically. So I guess in this case it ain't going to happen. Well, maybe if he does enough damage on that. Can we one-shot that? Okay. Not too bad, not too bad. I actually really like that idea. But I think it's not that easy to set up. I guess it's just a hard counter to Marsha then. But it gets an attack bar, and then it doesn't do anything with the attack bar. But that S3 is not bad. I feel like it's just, you need a heavy investment in damage to do enough damage to actually one-shot. And if you don't, well, the unit still gets the passive. If you do, it probably is too squishy to be able to fight, but that is actually pretty interesting, not gonna lie. It has potential, but it needs slightly more on that, like, getting extra turn. Like, why? Like, you're not gonna do anything with that extra turn. Is to just, like, throw the threat state at someone? I don't know. The dark one has that extra hit that cannot be counted. Looks pretty bad, like, I don't even know. It looks just straight up bad. I did see someone use it, and I saw that it was doing like near to no damage on that final hit. So I actually want to see what's the multiplier on that final hit. So the multiplier on that final hit is a 2.4. That is pretty terrible. Like, by best, you can put additional damage artifacts on it, and then a 2-hit becomes a 3-hit. Still not that much, like Feng Ying does that all the time. Also, accuracy elite, that doesn't say too much. Base stats are pretty squished, so at least make a unit that has high attack actually have pretty decent multipliers and not just do no damage whatsoever. Looks pretty bad. So let's see how this unit looks in RTA. 36% win rate, okay. 20% win rate, and probably not used. Used once, lost. This unit seems pretty bad. Like, you could say, like, okay, the anti-counter thing could be used against something like Triple Revenge Vert. Like, yeah, for what reason? This thing is not gonna kill Triple Revenge Vert. Like, even with an armor break, it's still doing near to no damage. And then if you bullet full damage, it's way too squished. So, yeah, I can't really see this unit being used either. So, my final verdict of the family, I would rate the fire one probably a 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 because I think it has some usage in SF10, but that is probably about it. Like, would you really use this in RTA? Probably not that much. It's too much setup to get this thing rolling. So, yeah, just 5 out of 10. This one, as I said, like, pretty much he doesn't have a best in slot. Like, the moment I thought they had a best in slot, might as well just put a Joe Gun in there. Joe Gun just strips and then puts attack buff on anyone. So, is that attack bar increase really that useful? Also having a useless S2, where Joe Gun arguably has a more useful S2. So this unit, I would say 3 out of 10. This one, I can see some usage in PvE, and I think he's PvE only kind of more-ish, because the S3 doesn't have that much of a high damage multiplier, so I don't really expect it to kill anything in arena or whatnot. So I would rate this one probably, let's just say like 6 out of 10, because I can see some usage in PvE. But I'm not 100% sure if it will work, because the damage multiplier is actually pretty low. Like, if it works, he's probably 7 to 8 out of 10. But we will have to see the moment I have that skill up. This one I would say has most potential of the whole family. Like we saw the one-shot in Marsha, that is pretty nice. You can think of a few other units you can one-shot, like Theo Mars, she goes straight through the immunity, that kind of good stuff. So I can see this one being used. It just needs something slightly more. Like if it had the other S2, it would be so much better, because then it could set up the S2 for armor breaks for itself. This thing really needs the other S2. This S2 is just straight up terrible, I would say. I think they have to rework this whole S2 to make it something useful, because we have another unit that also has it, that also just pretty much becomes useless because of that S2. And I don't really get the additional turn. You don't need that additional turn, and you kind of need the additional turn in here. This thing needs to do something else if you kill it. Like, I don't know, start hitting something else, armor break it, give yourself a tech buff. I don't give a shit. Like, invisibility because you stealth killed someone and then you can't be hit. Think of something, like give a new buff of like, then he goes into smoke screen so he cannot be targeted except for AoEs for the next turn. Something, they could have been way more creative on that than getting another turn for no reason, because he has no skills to follow up on, like him just making a kill. It doesn't make any sense. And this one is just straight up bad. I would give this one a 1 out of 10 or maybe 2 out of 10. So once again, not a whole bunch of a great family. It has potential for boss once again, of course, but we shall see. Going on to the final family, we have the Fire Ivor, which recovers HP if it's lost, and you do more damage if you're higher than 50% of your HP remaining. Not that great. This skill, the Harpoon Impale, pretty cool looking skill, but let's see what that does. So we're looking at a multiplier of 2.9. Whereas the multiplier of the S1 is 1.9. Which are pretty, well, this one adding up to a 3.8 is okay. The armor break should technically be a 2 times 40% chance to land. I've seen Obavo stream yesterday, and this thing was never landing armor break. He was using the water one, however, not this one, but this thing was never armor breaking. So maybe the S1 is just bugged for the armor break rate, or just 2 times 40% doesn't equal to anything. So also this unit is a lot of HP, near to no attack, with pretty low multipliers for attack. So I don't think I will see this unit doing any much damage. Sure, you got the 50% extra damage if you're above 50% HP, but that seems not that great. Sure, it's just a 4-star, but I can't really see this being that useful. And it also seems like no one has used this in RTA yet, for, I would say, good reasons. We have the water one. The water one is the one that most people thought were pretty interesting, because you have the S2 that has the multi-hit continuous damage, and then the S3, you are able to get 100% attack power, you're able to do the 30% less damage, and you have the remove beneficial effects with a 50% chance that goes up to a 70% chance. So you got a strip armor break on the S1, technically. What does that look like in RTA? It is somewhat more used, so at least we're getting a more consistent number of the win rate. And win rate seems to be 40% over there, 46 over there, and 36 over there. So 46 is not bad, but still the numbers are pretty low, and where the number is like relatively higher, it's still that the win rate is pretty bad. So I would say this unit definitely, like, either the S1 armor break is bugged or needs to be having a higher number of the rate, and the S2, I guess, doesn't do too much as well. So one was the one with the S3 that has the most potential. I tested it, it has perfect AI, but there's one big issue. It is 4-turn cooldown. If you want to use, let's say, a Lucian into this thing, then this thing is going to use its S3 at wave 2 at the middle boss in GB12, for example. That is all fine. Then your Lucian clears the next wave on wave 3. That means that this thing, even on max cooltime, does not have its skills back on the final boss. You had one job come to us. It was so easy to just give this thing 3-turn cooldown, immediately super good for the thing. It's the only thing it's good for as of 10 and GB12. But no, you had to be like, okay, fuck this unit, actually. We don't want to replace Tatu. We don't want people to summon for this unit. We'd rather have them use a 2A or something. And that for this unit is just straight up trash. Is this going to be buffed to be 3-turn at some point? I don't know. It should have been there from the start. But however, Apparently it's not. We can also see the multipliers right now, and it's a 1.8 on that skill. That is not that high either. So moving on to the light one. Light one is one of the few people said like, yo, this one has so much potential because of you ignore inability effects, you get attack bar all the time, all of the Gucci stuff. Sounds very good. But then again, 10%. Is 10% that much? Like, yeah, but you get it from both your turns and enemy turns. Like, okay, but Widget gets 20 inches from enemy turns. Yeah, okay. Let's not talk about that. It's like this unit did dirty to Jaeger because Jaeger also has the inability kind of stuff. Yeah, but Jaeger does a lot more damage. And the base stats on this thing is too much attack focus. Plus, you can say like, whoa, 118 base speed. That is so good. It is good, except for the fact, like, would you put 118 base speed on a Ragdoll? Ragdoll doesn't need that much speed. It already gets attack bar. This thing, same thing. It already gets attack bar. Why do you need a high base speed? Inconsistent kits that don't work together with the other stuff they have. That's like the theme line of this freaking like whole collab of these units. But let's actually look at the skills. Let's look at the multipliers because maybe there's something good at it. So we have the light one, which, yeah, of course, has the same multipliers as the fire one, which is 2.9. It has a very high base attack, so I guess this can do a decent amount of damage. But let's see if RTA, for what it's been used so far, shows that it's actually kind of good or not. And for some reason, I can't find this unit on the list yet. And I've been checking for quite a bit of time, but I'm pretty sure it's just not on the list. So either too little people have been using it yet, or it's, I don't know. Well, that's the only reason why a unit would not be on the list. It would be on the list if anyone ever used it. I guess LD5s are somewhat more rare, and therefore, I don't know, but I would have assumed this thing to be on the list by now, but apparently it simply isn't. So that is somewhat strange, because I thought this one would definitely be used in RTA more. But I guess something we have to come back at a later time. But I assume actually it not being too great, but it has one of the more potentials of all of the family that we've seen so far to have a more decent win rate compared to the others. So for the final unit of this family, we have the Dark Ivor, which has the S2 of the throwing axe, the S1 of course of the armor break, that's inconsistent. And then the S3 of increasing all allies attack power for 3 turns, attack bar, and afterwards all allies except yourself attack a random target. Sounds very strong. I've seen some RTA matches on it. The attack buff and attack bar is pretty interesting if this thing had the 118 lead. Like if this thing had 118 lead, instantly busted as fuck. But 103 lead is not bad. The only issue is that you start hitting random targets. You could trigger someone's passive. You could trigger a Bellio passive. You could trigger, I don't know, you could trigger all kinds of passives, counters, whatnot, nemesis. That whole part is not nice. Like attack power for 3 turns and attack bar is pretty nice, but this is not that chill. I am also not sure if you look at it for PvE side of things, like R5 if he has perfect AI. Let me know in the comments if he does have perfect AI for always using S3. Because it's a team up and all of the team up units so far have perfect AI for if they can team up, they will team up. But yeah, his base HP and attack and defense actually shows that you want to build it more on the tanky side. Maybe some additional damage stuff because this is a 3-hitter, this is a 2-hitter. But let's see in RTA if he's being used and how much of win rate he has. Because this is more of a setup unit. So it's not necessarily about him being good. It's about like the rest of the team being good. So the win rates could be somewhat more misleading. This unit is actually there. And we finally have a unit 50% win rate plus. In Conqueror, nice. 44 in this one, okay. And then we have in G3 not used. So this one, I think, also signals that it's mainly used with cleave. So if we check, for example, the team analysis, what's the dream team with this? Oh, actually, not really. It's kind of all over the place. Like this is, I would say, the only one that's like heavily a cleave. But yeah, I guess this unit has the most potential out of all of them. Would I necessarily consider it very OP, the S3? No, like not that much. Like in the end, you have more units that give attack bar and attack buff. This one is 3 turns, which is longer than most of them. But then again, like everyone starting to attack stuff, is that useful? You reduce cooltimes on it. But then again, is this that much? You're not really going to use this unit after someone. You're going to use it before someone. So there's no cool times to reduce when this unit moves. Pretty much and does its S3. So would it become that interesting? I don't know. Also, cool time is 4 turns. I guess that's not too bad. But then again, the S1, if it's an inconsistent armor break, I'm not too sure. If this becomes a consistent armor break, it's already a lot better. And this thing, I guess, is just okay as it is. But then again, this one has a lot more potential than all of the other units so far, pretty much. So then my verdict of this family, I would rate this one probably 2 out of 10. Can't really see it being used. This one, I'm not sure if this is a bug or just should be higher, but this thing is not really landing. But still, I guess this one is one of the more potentials of the units out there if you meet all of the thresholds. And I would rate this one 7 out of 10. This one, if this thing goes down to 3 turns, I would give it a 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 at least. But currently with 4-turn cooldown, it's just straight up useless. I have an idea how I can maybe use it, but for now I just give it like a 4 out of 10 because it's just, man, come on. Has to be 3 turns, man. This one I would say has quite some potential. We couldn't see it being used in RTA, or at least we haven't seen it being used enough in RTA to have like statistics on it. I would say that this one has somewhat potential to be interesting and good. I would rate this one a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's like super OP. And I would give this one a 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. I would give this one an 8 out of 10 because I think his S3, I've seen some replays on it. You guys can check out some replays. The S3, it seems interesting, but it's also not that great. Like, for example, you might as well put a Bastet in there. I don't know. So, yeah, that is it for those units. We still have one unit that I think most people don't have yet because you're capped at some point of what things you can do. But just to look at it, the S2 is pretty trash S2. It doesn't do all too much. We can look at the multiplier of the S3. This thing does more damage every time that you decide to not use it. But there's not a count thing on it that it actually shows like, okay, how much damage is it doing right now? Would be nice to just like a count like 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4, go. Like something like that. I don't know. But let's look at the multipliers of this thing. Okay, so looking at multipliers, we have a 8.2. That is actually pretty high multiplier. If we check the light Ezio, it was a 7.8. This is an 8.2 and you have a damage increaser on that skill. So this, by minimum, I would say it's interesting for Siege, for sure, because of the threat state and those kind of things. You can kind of like regulate like how many times this thing is hit, and then you can snipe something out. RTA, however, because it also has like a crit rate lead and that kind of stuff, I am not too sure because it's... You don't want to waste too many turns before this thing goes off. Like in Arena, you want to make quick kills, especially with Assassins, especially if they have like... This is probably the lowest base HP we have on any unit, I feel like. That is 6-star. Probably there's some lower, but not many. Like this is literally Antares level of base HP. So I'm not too sure if that is that useful in Arena, but in Siege definitely can be used. So I would rate this unit probably a 7 out of 10 for usability. I would yet have to see it because I don't think that many people have this unit yet. Because at some point you're capped at how fast you can do the achievements because you need to do something at some point of like killing the rifle like 15 times or something, which you cannot speed up. So that is that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a thing or two, or at least saw my opinion about these units. Let me know in the comments what you think about these units. If you completely disagree, very much allowed. Let me know why you disagree or agree. This video took me pretty long to make. Was a lot of editing, so I appreciate you. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and see you as always in the next one.